Hello, and welcome to today's session on how businesses can support employee financial well-being. My name is Nadal, and I'm a public health lead at Wandsworth Council. This session is a part of a series of workshops, webinars, and resources that Public Health Wandsworth have been developing to support local businesses, organisations, and employers in being a healthy workplace. Our previous workshops delved into why employee well-being makes commercial sense for business and how businesses can support employee mental well-being. Linked very much to mental well-being is an individual's financial well-being, especially during the cost of living crisis. Today's webinar introduces us to how businesses can support their employees' financial well-being. The workshops are being delivered by Let's Improve Workplace Wellbeing, a non-profit community interest company whose aim is to support workplace well-being. Before we begin with the webinar, I'd like to draw your attention to a few resources. If you've attended some of our workshops and webinars before, you might have heard this before. But I think it acts as a great reminder of the resources that are available to you. This can be found on the Healthy Workplace webpage, and it has links to the previous workshops and information about other resources. The Council administers a local Healthy Workplace Award to provide businesses and employers within the borough with the framework of evidence-based criteria, which acts as a template for good practice and recognises employers in the borough who invest in their employees' health and well-being. If you'd like to take part in this award or would like some more information, please do get in touch. You can email us at publichealth@wandsworth.gov.uk, and the information's on the Healthy Workplaces webpage too. I'd also like to highlight the Supply Wandsworth programme, which is being delivered by the Council's Economic Development team and may be useful for local businesses in Wandsworth to have a look at. Environmental, social, and governance investing has increasingly meant that for businesses to be supplier ready, they must be able to demonstrate their commitment to influencing positive health outcomes with the work that they do. Becoming accredited with the Local Healthy Workplace Award can help evidence your organisation's commitment within bid applications and investment opportunities. Another resource that can be useful for businesses is the Making Every Contact Count online training. You can find information on this on the Council's website, and there's a number of courses that are quite relevant for staff and businesses to have a look at, one being the employee mental health, emotional mental health and well-being. I'd also like to draw your attention to resources that are available on the Council's website around the cost of living, which is the Wandsworth Cost of Living Hub, and that can be found on the Council's website too. If there are any other areas that you'd like us to cover in the future, please do get in touch and let us know. I'd like now to pass on to Nuz, who'd introduce herself and take us through the workshop and the webinar. Thank you for listening.
So hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. We are running these sessions very kindly with the support and direction of Nadal Al-Awazi, who works at both Richmond and Wandsworth councils as the health and well-being workplace lead. We're very lucky to be able to be discussing some really key topics. And we have really gone through a journey at the moment, which you would have seen and hopefully engaged quite well with some of the conversations we have had so far. In today's session, we really want to hone in on understanding the links between mental health and financial well-being. So first of all, to kick it off, it would be good to introduce myself. My name is Nuz Shagan. I sit on the leadership team for an organization called Let's Improve Workplace Wellbeing. It's a non-for-profit community interest company that really was formed in 2020 by a passionate group of people who really saw this need to learn and share from best practice. So we're not saying we have all the answers, but what we're saying is that we have learned quite a bit around financial well-being, mental health, physical well-being, and social well-being. And we're really digging into what we really need to look at in terms of mental health and financial well-being. I also work as a workplace well-being strategist, having worked in a number of roles as head of well-being strategy in terms of people and projects manager, and prolifically, I guess, the head of health and well-being for UK and Ireland. I will be supporting the session today with Ryan Briggs, and really digging into some of the agenda around this key topic. So what do we have in store for you today? So we look at the agenda. We really want to understand what is financial well-being, what are the challenges, what support have employers, so like yourselves, asked for, and what is out there. We really want to just summarize some of the key points and top tips that you could go away and be able to actively use. And then also touch on a couple of questions around this topic, as I'm sure there'll be many questions around it. So really diving in, I'm going to introduce our speaker for today, and who is an expert in this area. So Ryan is the founder of Finwell. He has been in financial services for over 10 years and has a level 4 diploma, so is qualified as well and an accredited workplace financial education specialist. He's also a mental health first aider, so he's a very proud ambassador as well, and on the advisory board of Ripple Suicide Prevention Charity. He's also a team member of the Global Wellness Institute. So he has a vast plethora of knowledge and expertise in this area. So thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us today. And we're really enthused to learn more about this really key topic. Over to you, Ryan.
Thanks, Nuz, and delighted to be here. Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking some time out to join us. So it might be useful just for me to explain a little bit about what Finwell is and who we are and what we do. And then we can look at, what employers have been asking for and how we could support employers. But Finwell really is a training company. So my background, as Nuz said there, is in financial services for over 10 years. And I think, we've realised there's such a need at the moment. We've gone through very challenging times, especially around finances, and it's impacted all of us, really, businesses and individuals and employees. So Finwell is a training company that specialises in offering education, guidance and training to employees and leadership teams. We've been going for almost 2 years now, and we offer a range of services, really, a range of services to companies of all sizes. So that's Finwell. And this next visual that you'll see is one that we use an awful lot on all of our group workshops that we do with companies. And I think it's just really important to understand that we're not actually all in the same boat. We've talked a lot in kind of COVID and the pandemic that, we're all in the same boat. We've got to get through it together. And we really disagree a little bit at Finwell. Yes, we're all going through challenging times, and we could say that, we're all in the same storm. But I think it's really important that we understand as business owners and business leaders that people are affected in different ways, and people have their own challenges. They have their own situations, their own family lives, their own, different income levels, different ages, different goals and needs throughout life. So how they'll be dealing with this might differ a lot. Some people might, just glide through it a little bit easier than others. Some people will be having to, row that little bit harder and work that much harder. And others will be really, really struggling and almost drowning. So it's really important for us to try and help companies bring their employees together and their leadership teams together, understand that we've all got these different challenges, and try and work together to get through this, really. So that's a little bit about Finwell, but I'll hand back to you, Nuz, to kick us off with one of the first questions.
Yes, thank you, Ryan. And I really love that image, because I think it's really key that we understand we are in the same storm, but we are in very different boats. So a really good analogy there. I guess for many of the people that are on this webinar today and trying to understand, I think the first key point is really understanding what is financial well-being.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one that we always start with every company that we work with, Nuz, because it means different things to different people. It's a very personal thing. You know, in the UK, definitely there's a huge stigma around talking about money, and interestingly, even a bigger stigma than there is to talk now about mental health and well-being. You know, it's great the work that's been done on the mental health side of things, but we're possibly 5 or even 10 years behind when it comes to talking about money. So really important that we understand what financial is and what it means to us. And as you can see with the first visual, we've got some definitions here. And this first one is from a big company called Aegon. And what they see it as and what they talk about is really how people feel about control. They talk a lot about control and the control that they have over their financial future. A lot about their relationship with money. And we talk a lot about that, kind of the psychology of it. And we'll go into that in a bit later in a bit more detail. They believe it's about focusing on the things that make life enjoyable, because let's face it, you know, we go to work hopefully to earn money and do a good job, but also to live. You know, we don't live to work necessarily. So really important that we can utilize money to enjoy our lives, and also to give us meaning, you know, to make our lives meaningful both now, you know, in the current time and making the most of the current time, but also in the future in retirement. So that's what Aegon say. Moving on to the money and pension service, who we work with a lot. They look at really security, and again, control comes up again, that word control. They think that it's about knowing that you can pay the bills today, which is obviously vitally important and possibly a bit harder than it has been in recent times, but also that you can deal with the unexpected. We talk a lot about financial resilience and being able to pay for that unexpected bill or that emergency, that thing that comes up right at the wrong time. For me personally, it's just come up. I've got the Christmas money ready for presents, and now the car failed its MOT. I need to buy 3 new tires and all sorts. So it's about having that money and having that financial resilience for the unexpected. But it also, they believe it's being on track, you know, on track for a healthy future and having that hope for the future. The element of confidence comes up an awful lot, and we'll look at the issues around the lack of confidence that we have as a nation, really, and feel empowered to you know, take action and make a positive impact. And then finally, really, the quote that we work with at Finwell and that we like the most is the fact that the one thing more important than our ability to earn money is our attitude towards it. And I know for some of the people on this call and some of the business owners and business leaders that might be watching this back, we'd all love to earn more money. We'd all love to pay more money if we could. But we've got to remember that businesses are going through this cost of living crisis as well. Rates are going up, you know, all of these challenges on businesses as well. So what we try and do is empower and educate employees to do more and spend you know, more wisely and manage their money better to improve their financial well-being. So we believe it's all about our attitudes, our behaviors, our beliefs, our biases, even our habits, and ultimately our decisions when it comes to money. But that gives you a flavor of kind of what financial well-being is. What it definitely isn't is just to kind of clarify, and we kind of start sometimes with what it's not. It's not just how much you earn. It's not just having more money. It's not how much you've got in your bank or what car you drive. Those things are, you know, are nice to haves, but it's about what we do with what we've got, really. The next visual that you can see just sort of highlights some of the things that we're seeing with employers, again, of all different sizes. And it's been quite interesting to understand really so many different topics and themes along life's journey, life's financial journey, people's careers. And, you know, starting out with the numbered areas, you can see there just basic money management, a real critical part of people's financial well-being, understanding how to manage their money better. Then as you're going through, looking at possibly getting onto the property ladder or remortgaging, very topical at the moment with interest rates and inflation and mortgages. Then looking at protecting what's important to you has come back as a really key one. Looking at people's employee benefits and how they can maybe access them and understand them better, how they can protect their income and protect their family through insurances and different things like that. Possibly a big one that we see is investing in your future. So for different demographics, looking at what options are available around investing, what's out there and how does it work. And then finally, looking at modern retirement planning, a big demographic of UK's workers possibly approaching retirement and wanting to know what understanding they have, what options they have, how they can do that, how they can make the money that hopefully they have saved up last as long as possible. So those were the key ones. But then if you add in all of the orange topic and themes, these really have been ones that we've seen more recently that have come up that have a huge impact on our financial well-being. Things like men's health and women's health, parenting, looking at menopause as well as a critical area and the impacts that can have on finances and financial well-being. Looking at divorce, which unfortunately the stats are on the up, and the impact that can have. Also looking at bereavement and grief and trauma and loss. These are things that we can't avoid and we can't escape, really. Employees will face this at some point in their careers, and there are huge impacts when it comes back to finances. So there's just more and more topics and themes and things to consider for employers that employees will go through that will have a huge impact both on their financial well-being but also on their mental health as well. And that obviously has an impact on their productivity, their performance, their ability to do the best possible job while at work.
Thank you so much for that, Ryan. I think it's really insightful, and I think an excellent way of just putting everything into one slide visually to actually see many of the things that perhaps we don't always consider. And I think, when we look at the orange and that impact on mental health, we know a divorce, for example, or grief and bereavement has a huge impact on our mental health, but also thinking it in terms of financial well-being. And I think these are the links that often we may not put together, but actually are quite prolific at the moment. We just think of coming out of the pandemic and how much grief and bereavement we had around that, but there's a financial well-being implication there as well. So I really think this is a very good slide for most people to take a look at, and some of the areas of focus and learning more about them. So that really leads us quite nicely, Ryan, in asking around a little bit more around what are the challenges? What are you seeing? What experiences have you encountered working with employers and employees?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a challenging time, right? Last 4 years or even longer, we've had COVID and lockdown, and we've all had the impact of that, whether it be on health of friends and family or ourselves. Businesses have suffered in that time. So if that wasn't hard enough, we kind of start to come out of that, and then we go into the cost of living crisis and the additional challenges possibly as a bit of a fallout from that. But interest rate and inflation have obviously had a huge impact. That's going to have an impact on us as individuals and businesses. So looking at the cost of everything, just basics, food, energy, fuel, homeowners, whether you have a mortgage or if you're renting, massively been impacted there. There's also a big issue in the UK generally around just confidence, just having the confidence that, over 50%, I believe the stat is, of people just are not confident when it comes to managing money, knowing how to save, how to budget, how to get the best deals on certain things. And we've got to think, well, why is that? And it's various different things, but mainly we didn't learn these basics at school. The schooling system didn't teach general, life skills and financial skills. It's encouraging that it is changing now, but for a whole generation of us that are in the workplace now, we didn't get that education. So really, really important to try and do that. We've also seen a huge lack of financial resilience. So I talked a little bit about it slightly earlier, but most of us, really over 20%, have less than £100 in savings. Wow. We're kind of living month to month, and this is not just those on lower incomes. This is people on all different incomes, the stats is proving. So we're becoming a society that are living on the edge a little bit, like I say, month to month. And if there was an unexpected bill or an emergency, where would we turn? And unfortunately, it would probably be to borrowing money or getting into debt. So we really need to think about how can we improve the financial resilience of our people. And then, as we've spoke about, the key topic of this workshop about the impact on our mental health. And being a mental health first aid, I'm really passionate about this. And I don't think two things could be more intrinsically linked. Our financial well-being and our ability to cover our costs and provide a living for ourselves and for our family, and the links that has to our mental health are huge. And if we do keep the topic on businesses and employers, that has to be a top consideration, because if you are worrying about money, if you are worrying about how you are going to pay your next month's bills, or put food on the table, or heat your home, how can you possibly think about being the best possible version of yourself at work? So really, really important. It also has other impacts on other areas of well-being as well, looking at physical well-being, nutrition, sleep, things like that. It's just going to have a knock-on effect to every area, really. And also our social well-being as well, our relationships with others, friends, with family, colleagues, partners. It's going to have a knock-on effect with all of that as well. So a lot of challenges for employees to think about.
So thinking in terms of the challenges, we've spoken about the intersectionality, I guess, with mental health. It would be interesting to understand, what have you come across some of the challenges in terms of employers?
Again, like I said before, this cost of living crisis challenge, whatever we want to call it, it's obviously affecting us as individuals, but it's affecting companies as well. So it's almost having a double impact, really. But some of the research that has been out there and that we can share maybe at the end of this session, the fact that, it's a huge cost to companies, for companies that don't try and address this, or don't try and put things in place to improve things. It just costs money. That's the bottom line. And if we drill down into that a little bit deeper, it actually costs 56 billion per year to the economy, to UK businesses of all sizes, by three main areas, really: by absenteeism, so by people literally being off work for various reasons, and you can drill down into the root cause of that maybe, but a huge amount of cost for not being at work and not being productive. Then we look at presenteeism as well. So this is a little bit different. This is actually being at work, but not, having your mind at work, shall we say, or thinking about other things, or not being able to perform, or to be productive, or to do your job to the best of your ability. That has a huge cost to the economy and to UK businesses. And then lastly is really around recruitment and turnover, losing people, losing your best people, possibly because of these areas, the cost of having to replace them, the recruitment costs, some of the hidden costs that you might not be aware of, are huge. So these are the three main areas that we look at, that data has actually been done to measure this and look at the financial cost in pounds and pence to UK businesses. The good news, the positive news, we always try and focus on the positives, that there's also been some research done that by investing in staff well-being, in employee well-being, whether it's mental, financial, physical, social, whatever, there is a good return on investment. And this is hopefully a positive. That I think it has to be two things. It has to be the moral reason of doing this is the right thing to do for your people. But obviously, as business owners, I'm a business owner myself, it has to show a return on investment. It has to affect the bottom line and affect profitability, because that's how businesses keep moving forward and can grow and be sustainable. But that is some good news on the research there for the return on investment. Shocking
figures there, but definitely some food for thought, I think, in terms of how important it is to make the investment in staff health and well-being. So that moves us nicely into a look at the UK specifically. I think we see a global overview a lot of the time when we listen to the news, etc. But really honing in on the UK and some of the data perhaps that you've come across related to financial well-being.
Yeah, definitely. So we've put some stats together. We've highlighted a few here, and I'll take you through some of those. Unfortunately, they don't sort of make for very pleasant reading, so apologies for that, but let's not hide the fact these are the issues, but there are ways that we can try and improve things. But just going through some of them, the research and the data and all the guides that are being published, more recently, they all are showing that financial worries and money worries are the top cause of stress for UK employees. So, this is one of the main areas really why individuals at the workplace are stressed. They're suffering with anxiety, depression, perhaps leading on to mental health issues, possibly. So this was from the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development, CIPD. The next one is again quite startling, really, that the employees that are experiencing financial stress and possibly anxiety are twice as likely to have thoughts of self-harm or suicide. I remember when I first saw that stat, it took my breath away a little bit. I couldn't really, understand it or believe it. But that's a huge one, and showing the links not only between financial well-being and mental health, but also now bringing in, suicide and suicide prevention. Again, all three are hugely linked with the work that I do with Ripple Suicide Prevention. It's a big thing. Only 5% of employees believing that their workplace has a comprehensive set of policies in place or strategies or resource or support. Really, really interesting. And you can see that conflicting with the next visual where, 91% of HR professionals or managers or leaders believing that they actually have a responsibility to do this. So we have, the majority of leadership professionals saying that they have a responsibility to do it, but only a minimum amount of people that believing it's in place. So there's a lot of work to be done, but at least the signs are there that there's appetite for it, and it's at least being recognised that there's a need for it. And the last one here, just again, a high percentage of HR professionals believing that the employer's got a responsibility to improve financial well-being, but beyond pay. And we see this a lot. A lot of organisations believing that, okay, their only responsibility is to pay fairly and pensions now with auto-enrolment. And while that's the case, really, really important to have fair pay in place, looking above and beyond that, and what other support can they be offering to help their employees get through these challenging times. So that's quite an interesting one, again, from the CIPD.
Again, some really crucial stats there. I think one thing that I do take away, especially when you're thinking of any size business, is it's no longer just about pay when you are looking at bringing in talent. I think many have to really think about what is the complete employee offering to really get in the right talent. So really interesting facts there, but this is the basis for the why, and it's very important to go back to the valid stats. So thank you for sharing that, Ryan. I guess for many on this call that are looking at it and perhaps haven't quite gotten into the financial well-being side of understanding it, it's a good segue now to actually ask or reflect on what have you seen. So really honing in on some of your expertise and your knowledge, having worked with a plethora of employers. What support have employers asked for?
It's been a huge learning curve for us as well, but everything that we've tried to develop has been on what employees have asked for and what they've learned from within their organisations, what their employees have said, what they've asked for, and hopefully what we've then provided. But the first visual you can see here is actually around providing content, providing employees with safe, credible, factual information that employees can access on a 24/7, 365 basis to improve their understanding, their knowledge, their confidence in the certain areas that might be important and relevant to them. So, there's lots of free information out there. There's lots of free websites, credible websites, government-based organizations where you can, signpost to or share this content with your employees so that they can go on their own journey. It's not about hand-holding all the time, but by being able to signpost to really useful, credible content is a great first step. So, we do that with our clients. There's, like I say, lots of information that is available for free, though. So that would be a really great first step, I think. Also then looking at what your people actually want, really, really important. We're starting to work with more and more SMEs now. And, you know, if you get down to a little bit easier to do, actually, if you have fewer employees, you can just set up certain ways to ask them what's important to them, what challenges are they having, you know, whether it's on a anonymous basis, so they can feel safe and secure to give that information, you know, in an anonymous way. But asking them, you know, what's going to help them, what sort of information or support do they want. We've got a way of trying to survey employees and help them measure their own financial well-being, come up with a kind of a personal money score and reflect on their own personal situation. I think it's really, really important. Again, looking at the fact that we're all very, very different. We're all at very different stages in life and have different challenges. This is a way that they can, you know, score themselves and understand where they're at and maybe come up with a plan of action. But the whole point of just gathering that information on your own people, making sure it's data driven, not kind of just putting something in place and hoping it works, asking first, you know, asking your people what do they want, and then making sure that you try and address that and try and come back to them. We've also seen, we would call that financial education. And again, this is a big thing, really, a big exercise that's needed in the UK for people to understand the difference between what is financial education, what is financial guidance, and what is financial advice. And I'll try and explain kind of all three. But what I just talked about there, accessing good educational content from different resources and in different forms, is the education piece. So that's the first bit. The next bit that we think is really important is guidance, what we call guidance. And really, this is a way that you can arrange for, you know, your employee teams, your leadership teams to come together and maybe interact a little bit more in an engaging way and talk about money. And it's really, really hard, this, because we don't talk about money. We've looked at that already, as stigmas and the taboo, and the fact that it's even harder to talk about money than the mental health. But we need to move the dial on that. We need to create psychologically safe spaces and make it less scary and more open for people to talk about the challenges that they're facing, so that they can then find the help and the support that they might need, whatever it might be. So, I mean, some of the work that we've done, we try and facilitate group workshops for companies and their teams. Again, this is something that they can do. You know, the people on this call, you can do this for free if you've got some leadership team members and want to start putting them together and facilitating this. But we've learned that this does various things. One, it creates that safe culture and that safe space, but it also then enables, you know, employees and leaders to share the solutions as well. You know, you can start to share things that you've done that have really, really helped, and start to maybe build up a bank of resources or hints or tips that is shared within an organization. And I've just been massively surprised by the amount of different life stages or life moments or life events that affect so many different people and all come back to money, all come back to an impact on financial well-being. So you can see some of the different topics and themes that we offer that are you know, really key along someone's financial journey, really. So that's the next step. Again, we was asked, kind of after doing a lot of that work, we found that some people wanted additional support. They wanted more of a one-to-one based session that was a bit more private. Perhaps they didn't feel like they wanted to engage or interact so much on the group workshop, and that's absolutely fine. And perhaps they wanted to ask certain questions just on a one-to-one basis and be given further guidance and further support, you know, just on a one-to-one basis. So we started to develop that, and that's been quite interesting. It could cover a whole range of topics and themes, from people just starting out in their careers and wanting to get into good habits when it comes to money and savings and tax and things like this, right the way through to people getting onto the property ladder and wanting to navigate that, even through to people that are senior directors and owners of businesses, looking at, you know, what are the options when it comes to maximizing their money and utilizing their allowances, looking at what investment options there might be out there, and how to retire, how to exit a business or to retire from a business, and make sure that that money lasts as long as they need it to, and how possibly can it be passed on as well to the next generation. So lots of different areas, to consider. And I think that's the critical thing, is to try and make whatever support that you offer as personalized as possible. It's quite a hard thing to do, but there is no one size fits all. So, people need to feel that what is available is relevant to them. The other thing that we found was that there's really an opportunity, I suppose, for leadership and management to really get involved with this. And we've seen it a lot with mental health first aid training and having wellbeing champions within a business, whatever size really, whether it's 10 people or 10,000, utilizing management and people that want to put themselves forward possibly to be the go-to people to support teams when it comes to mental health and well-being. And what we've been asked to do is really take a similar approach, but with financial health and well-being. So can we upskill those people and give them the confidence and the skills and the resources that they can help their teams and have those conversations, which can be quite tricky and quite awkward sometimes? Can they spot the signs even of people that might be having a challenging time when it comes to money? Can they effectively signpost those people to the resources that are available? And basically, can they support the teams get through challenging times? So we've been asked to design and deliver that training as well, which has been quite well received.
I think a lot to reflect over. I think taking some of the really key points of what you said, and I had to reflect on it, is we're not taught any of this at school. Nobody equips us in terms of having the confidence in how we manage our money. Perhaps you came from a family that really gave you that support in understanding money. But for the majority of people, I think you don't have your confidence around understanding your money. If I think a lot of young people as well, and I'm sure that come into your businesses, etc., I think that was reflective for me, is that you don't always know how to manage your money. And really addressing that relationship with your money is quite crucial, isn't it? In terms of what sort of spender are you? So some reflection points. So I think you went through some really good points in some of what the employers out there are really trying to understand. And financial well-being can be quite a scary landscape. I know when I was looking into it in various roles, it was that, to come away from thinking it was just financial advisors and you had to go and sort out a house and everything. It's actually so much more than that from a mental health perspective. And I really reflect on that control mechanism thing that we had in the definitions of financial well-being, is really, it's having control over your money and understanding that there are factors that you can control. So I really think there's a lot there around what you can be able to build up your financial resilience and be thinking about, and really educating yourself around some of this. So I guess from all that you've learned and working with organizations, many of which are listening in here, that are here, I guess, how does all of this work related to, I guess, financial well-being, how does this help with the agenda, not only for mental health, but also for society in general?
It's a good question, Nuz, because, whether we're speaking or working with senior HR managers or business owners, the question has always got to be, well, what's this actually going to do for us and for the business? What's the return on investment? We're all under different pressures to make things work. And I suppose this visual really just tries to highlight that, the different areas that, by considering some of this support, whether it's free resources and things that you can get in, or utilizing your existing providers and getting them to do more, or looking at alternative providers or additional providers and getting them in. Hopefully these are sort of the things that is going to actually have an impact on your business. So I think the one front and center, improving mental health, we've established that financial well-being is the key driver of that. And then how does that then ripple out really throughout the business, looking at reducing absenteeism, and also presenteeism, looking at retaining talent and keeping your best people happy and performing. Also looking at performance and productivity of your workforce, looking at upskilling your leaders, saving money, hopefully. We looked at the stats there of what it actually costs economies and UK businesses, looking at improving possibly your employee benefits and making your business more attractive to talent and improving, the recruitment process and getting good people to your business, or in general, improving the overall culture of your business can be a massive one. And ultimately that comes down to saving money and increasing profits. And I don't think we need to shy away from that. That's the bottom line for a business. Yes, there's some businesses out there that are looking at social change and positive impact, but it has to be profitable. Otherwise there is no business and there are no jobs and there are no employees. So, that has to be the bottom line, really.
And I guess the highlight coming into what we trying to achieve here is really perhaps just summarizing in some of your top tips, perhaps that you could share with people that are on this call around, what do you see that could be top tips that we could take away?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we always like that, don't we? A lot of people just to come away from these sorts of sessions with some real, 1, 2, or 3 things that they can just put into practice, practical steps that they can take away and make an impact. So you can see some of the different tips and things just to summarize what we've spoken about. But for me personally, I would say that the first step, if you're considering trying to improve, financial well-being for your people, is to ask them first. Don't go out and bring something in that you think is the right thing. Ask them, have frank discussions, have, surveys that can go out, whether they're anonymous or not. Ask them what their challenges are. We get inquiries because some companies have already done that and they've realized that financial well-being is top of the agenda or very high on the agenda, and then they're looking for what solutions are available. So first of all, ask them. Creating safe spaces and encouraging people to talk about this is a huge step. It might seem scary or that some companies have said to us, aren't we just going to be opening a can of worms here where people are just going to be asking for more money? And honestly, we haven't seen that. The way it's positioned, and as long as companies are paying fairly and doing what they can, I think employees recognize that a company's trying to go above and beyond just pay and pensions, as we've mentioned. So trying to create that psychologically safe space to talk about these issues is a huge one. Maybe, from asking the question, looking at what are the specific topics and themes that are relevant to your people and focusing on them. So they're all important. We look through that visual with the areas of focus beforehand, and they're all really important, but perhaps there might be some topics and themes and some areas of focus that are more important to your people than others. And then finally, I would just say to kind of start small. It can be a little bit overwhelming for HR managers or business owners or team leaders to think, well, we've got to do all of this stuff. And let's be honest, this is just one element that we have to think about. There's all the other areas of well-being. Then there's running a business as well, which is not easy, and getting sales in and earning money and paying people and suppliers and staying compliant and risk and all of these other things. So just starting small, start small and start to build on that, get a few things in place that your people have asked for, keep asking them, keep reviewing what you're doing, make sure whatever you implement, you can measure, because without measuring it, you don't know if it's working or not, and build upon the support and the resources that you're offering your people.
Now, really interesting. Thank you so much, Ryan. I think if I were going to take just 3 steps from that, I think I would definitely take around creating those psychological safe spaces, because we know it has an implication to mental health. We know, just how difficult it can be, and just opening up that conversation, I think is a really important thing, holding space for it. And then definitely some really good tips there. I think the first one is actually starting out with that conversation. But thank you for sharing that, and I think a good summary of where it is. To the audience here, thank you so much for listening in. We're going to go to a couple of Q&As. I did have one person send through a bit of a scenario that they had encountered And it's much of what you were talking about, Ryan, where they did not think about the links between mental health and financial well-being. One of the scenarios was someone was often late to work, was quite distracted, didn't seem to be present in work. And then on, I guess, into a one-to-one, really having a bit of that safe space to speak, it came out that actually the individual was, coming in later because of train tickets being too expensive at a certain time. Their partner had lost their job, and it was all based around financial well-being, which was giving them a lot of stress, etc. So it's definitely in the everyday. So much of what you've spoken about relates very nicely to obviously someone sharing their scenario in their workplace that they've encountered, that puts together this mental health and financial well-being story. So thank you so much for that. I'm just going to pause there and just have a look to see if there's any other questions, and then I'll be able to ask Ryan another question shortly. So one of the questions, Ryan, that has come through, I guess, is around if you are a small to medium-sized business, you're navigating this, you don't know much about it, but you'd really like to start perhaps just through effective signposting, for example. Are there any organizations you could recommend that, our audience and people listening in on this could potentially start with? Yeah,
definitely. So we partner with a charity, an organization called Step Change. And we're on a bit of a mission, really, with every company that we work with, or even if we're not working with them, we want every employer in the country, whatever size they are, to know about Step Change. So I encourage everyone on this call or that's listening back to this to Google Step Change, look at the Step Change website, and really implement it into your business. It doesn't cost anything. It's completely free. And I've seen personally the impact this can have. So it's all around debt, so if people are in crisis when it comes to financial well-being and money management, and perhaps, debt's becoming a little bit out of control and spiraling down, it's really, really important that people understand there is a place that you can go to where there is support that's free, that it can be anonymous. And I think it's important to also understand, rather than just having Step Change as a website you tell people about, effectively being able to signpost to it and knowing a little bit more about it to really empower or encourage someone to take that step. So Step Change, as I say, they're the biggest charity in the UK that helps with debt management, and you can contact them completely anonymously. And what they can do is an element of hand-holding. I know this through personal experience, that the hardest thing to do when you're in that situation and you've maybe got issues around debt is take action. You just can't physically, someone could be holding out their hand to you with the answer, with the solution, and you just can't do it. So an element of hand holding is really, really important. They can give you some breathing space with your, the providers that you owe money to. They can contact them on your behalf and put payment plans in place, help you take that breathing space that you need to start to get on the right track. So such an important organization. I've seen this personally where people have not known where to go, thought that there was no solution out there, no answer, no hope. And it's been not just life-changing, but can be life-saving. If we look again at the links to mental health and even suicide prevention, this can be life-saving stuff, just knowing that this is about there. And if you can effectively talk to someone about Step Change and make sure they've got the details and they take action, that can be huge for them individually, but also for your business. So that's one. I would also say to have a little look at Money Helper. This is a government-backed website full of resources, full of content, full of educational information along life's financial journey as well. Really useful, really easy to access. So take a look at Money Helper. Again, we try and make sure every company we're working with has access to that and is effectively signposting throughout their teams to Money Helper. But then there's Citizens Advice Bureau, lots of good information there. There's lots of government websites. Again, maybe I'll share after this a link with a list of resources that people can take a look at as a starting point, So then you've got these free resources that you can signpost to for your teams, and at least they can get the help that they need as and when they need it.
No, excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ryan. And I think just also adding here that Nadal has also got a list of various directives that they from the council can also support in terms of training. So we will be putting a list together and be able to send out some of these recommendations that Ryan has, and also the in-house resources that are being provided by the council. So please do watch out for that. So definitely something there. And then just very quickly before we end off here, a last question, which has also come up, I guess, because again, we understand financial well-being is a bit of that, black sheep of the well-being family in terms of people are a bit scared of it, is this differentiation between the financial advisor. Do I go to a financial advisor? What does that mean, in terms of guidance and education versus financial advisor? There's a lot around that at the moment people feel disorientated about.
Yeah, definitely. So again, as I mentioned before, I think there's a really important piece to be done for employees and managers, everyone really, to know the difference between education, guidance, and advice. So education being accessing factual information, educational content online or whatever that's there to hopefully improve your understanding, your knowledge, and your confidence to take your next step. Then there's guidance, which, what we talk about that with online workshops, group workshops, or in-person workshops where we're making it interactive. People can start to talk about money and different things openly, but it's not advice, it's guidance, it's effective signposting to other resources that might help someone feel empowered to take action. And then we look at advice, which in the UK is quite a compliant and heavily regulated area. Really what happens there is when you might need a personal recommendation, you might need to speak to a professional who's going to have the experience and the qualifications to recommend products or services based on your situation and based on your needs. That is what financial advice would be. And again, that can cover a whole range of areas such as mortgages or protection and insurance. It could be investments, pensions, retirement planning, tax, all that sort of stuff. It will normally come at a cost. There may well be no cost for an initial call, but there will normally be a cost associated with that. So very important to understand what the costs might be and what the options are. There's some really, really good websites as well. We'll share them in the resources where you can go on and put your postcode on and find local professional advisors, whether they be financial advisors, mortgage advisors, legal advisors, whatever. And you can really do your own due diligence and look at testimonials and what people have said, and then take the next step for you.
No, thank you so much. And on that note, it's not as scary as initially thought of financial well-being, but it's more being able to understand the right road to take. But thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you so much, Nadal, for enabling us to run these sessions. I think we hope to get as much feedback from yourselves as to how we can better improve some of these sessions we are running. How can we make them more relevant for the current climate within your organizations? We'd love to hear more around some of your feedback of what you are seeing in your businesses and what you'd like to see more of. But on that note, we thank you very much for your time today, and we hope to see you on the next session. But do look out and watch out for all the useful links that are coming out, and we will be in touch soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.